Hello, guys, and welcome to the first official episode of the New Eyes podcast. I'm so excited for today. This podcast really came together kind of on a whim in the most magical way. So I'm really excited for this episode, really excited to talk to our guest, who I'll talk about in just a second here. Um, but just recently, I had a very intriguing experience with just a spontaneous fast. My body just randomly went into this fasting mode. And this is something that I had researched in the past and been interested in trying. So I was definitely open to the concept of giving it a shot. But my body kind of just had its own plan and said, let's do it now. And so I followed along with my body and actually went for a full 7 days, fasted. And that's just on water or electrolyte water, just water with salt and lemon. So anyway, we'll get into all this sort of stuff as we go into this talk here. But I did just want to say one thing about today's podcast that really excites me and relates to the overall message of this page and this channel. And it's this idea of just going for it, not limiting yourself, not holding yourself back in a way. And this is something I'm trying to work on myself and formulate here is this idea of just being unreasonable. You know, we have a reasonable mind and an unreasonable mind. This is kind of the theory and concept I'm working up here after going through the work that I've done with Peter Crone and the Mastermind. But I'm putting together this concept of the reasonable mind and the unreasonable mind. And in this case, with this podcast episode, so far I have less than 100 followers. My guest has over 11,000 followers on Instagram. And the reasonable mind would say, oh, why would he ever say yes to this? What's the point of even asking? But the unreasonable mind, which is the one that I'm committed to nowadays, says, you know what? Why not? Let me ask him. He was kind enough to talk to me when I reached out about my random fast and the questions that obviously came up for me. And so let's just try and get him on. And Jonny was generous enough to come on here. I think we have an amazing talk planned. So I'm really excited to get into this. One thing that I want to say before we start is obviously just none of this is intended as medical advice. Okay, you'll get a lot of information on fasting here, but this is information that you should bring to your doctor and discuss before you make any sort of decision, please. Okay, so with that, I'm going to bring on Jonny. He's on Instagram as Avatar Jonny, and let's talk about fasting. Hey, brother.
Hey, hey again. Hey,
What's
brother. How are you?
what's going on, brother? Thank you so much for your patience and thank you for being here today, man. I'm so pumped about this. So,
Of course. I'm very excited as well for our talk.
awesome,
Thank you
brother.
for having me.
Yeah, I know, just to let the audience in here, I just I want to say that you when we've been talking to set this up, you've just been so pumped about it. You've just been talking about how committed you are to bringing value every time you talk about fasting and all that stuff. So I'm really excited for this. And I just want to, before we get into all the fasting talk, I do want to say and just, share some praise for you real quick. I just recorded a message just to give a little context about the fact that I went through this spontaneous fast. But during that, when I was about 53 hours in, I just reached out to you and just hoped
Mhm.
that, maybe I could get a reply and just some guidance because I was just, totally in deep waters, had no clue what to expect. And you were so gracious to reach back out several times and reply to my messages and give me some guidance and information. And you didn't have to do that. And so that was really cool. And I just want the audience to know that about you. You're really down to earth, ready to
Mhm.
help. And, with the courses that you offer as well, there's plenty of value and content from you. So I want to thank you for that personally first before we get into our talk here, brother.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, of course, it's a pleasure. It's a huge pleasure to be able to assist you. And yeah, you went into very deep waters as well. You went over 5 days or over a week, was it?
I ended up at 7 days and 6 hours.
Seven.
So
Yeah, wow, man. That's amazing. Like for the first fast, that was very impressive. Usually, many people start fasting, they just do like one day, maximum 24 hours, but you went really deep. So, yeah, you were definitely guided and you derived a lot from that, I would assume.
absolutely. And I can't wait to just talk about it throughout this talk
Hmm.
today and about all the things that we'll get into. But yeah, man, it's funny. I don't feel self-conscious talking about it because I know it wasn't me. It wasn't like
Hmm.
I'm gonna fast and I brute forced my way to 7 days. It was just my body was like, hey, let's fast. And
Hmm.
it just went for 7 days. And so I don't feel self-conscious being like, yeah, 7 days and stuff like that because it's just I followed my body and my body told me to keep going that long and that's all it was. So it feels like it
Hmm.
wasn't my accomplishment. It's just the natural flow of what my body wanted to do at the time. So it was very interesting.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and get into the questions here just so because we've got
Hmm.
I think a really good guided conversation for today. And then
Hmm.
obviously, we'll just chat as we
Hmm.
go through the questions and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
all
Sounds good.
right. So, I mean, first off, just to start with you, I'd like to know more about your background. Where does the name Avatar Johnny come from? And
Hmm.
just tell us a little about you first, even before fasting. Just who are
Hmm.
you?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, my name is Johnny. This is Avatar Johnny. Basically, my name is Johnny. So Avatar, it really means just a soul living in a human body. So we're all basically avatars. I'm an avatar. You're an avatar. So this is the general meaning of it. And another meaning for avatar is an incarnate teacher. So I believe this is also my highest purpose. So I really feel like I'm a teacher. I feel like it's one of the highest acts of service when I can use my vessel and share the wisdom I learn, and then others can derive value from that and change their lives. I believe that's my highest calling, and that's what I'm set to do on this earth. So yeah,
Awesome.
that's how the name came up. And well, I'm also 28 years old. I live in Greece, and for the past 5 years, this has been my main occupation. I've been helping people reverse various diseases, even diseases such as diabetes, even cancer, through natural methods. Fasting is one of them. Other methods were like fruit fasting, changing their lifestyle, getting into a more natural diet, various healing modalities. Many of them humanity has sadly forgotten about, but these were actually used in the past as well. So yeah, I've been helping people just optimize their lifestyle and improve their well-being. I believe that's my highest calling, and it's a great pleasure to do this and also help you as well.
That's awesome. That's wow. All right. Hell of a start to this podcast. This is really cool. Right out of the gates, just the way you just described Avatar and jumping into your purpose here and all that. You said another meaning for Avatar was uh, something about the teacher. Can you repeat that one more time for me, please?
Mhm. Yeah, an incarnate teacher. So
Incarnate
basically, you,
teacher.
yeah, yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Mhm.
I'm a school teacher as my profession, but I've been saying this a lot recently, especially with some of my coworkers that I talk more about this kind of stuff with. I was saying just I feel like my essence is teacher,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
whether that's in the classroom or whether it's here or whether it's hey, I just randomly started fasting and now I'm, teaching people just a little bit about, how it feels and what it's like. It's just
Mhm.
my essence has always felt like teacher and it doesn't need to be bound to a classroom or to a topic or whatever. It's just always what my essence has been, just teaching everything that I've been interested in and excited about. So I really love what you just said there. And it just totally
Mhm.
aligns with the goals of this page and this podcast too. So
Hmm.
Really great start. Hey guys, so I just want to take a moment to really honor something that we just talked about there in this episode, and something that Jonny and I both share, and that's this teacher's spirit. That part of us that's not just here to talk, but to guide, to serve, and to make things real for people. So, to serve that purpose, I've created something called the Enhanced Episode Experience. This is a full resource packet designed to deepen your understanding and connection to the conversation. I really want this packet to change your relationship to what watching a podcast typically looks like. I want to take you from passive consumption to active participation, reflection, and integration. If you're feeling called to try fasting or just want to understand the science and the mindset behind it, this packet will deeply enrich your perspective on the matter as you follow along with this episode. Inside, you'll find guided notes and reflection questions, full write ups on specific topics and terms that I felt needed a little extra attention, a full Kahoot interactive quiz with key takeaways where you can score points based on the accuracy of your answers and how quickly you answer. And I'm going to hopefully be able to share some of those scores and performances on social media. So I'm really excited about that as a really fun addition to this resource. Printable word games like crosswords and word searches, a collection of quotes from this episode that you can save and share, and many more things in this packet. You can access the full packet through the link that I'll provide in the description or the QR code that you'll see pop up on the screen here. I want everyone to access and use this resource. So, to that purpose, this is offered as a name a fair price offering, which means you can type $0 in the bar here and grab it for free. Or if you feel like it brings value to your journey and you're feeling a little generous, you can leave a donation to support the podcast. The packet is all created and accessible in Google Docs, so you get instant access with no download necessary. Either way, it's a resource designed with a lot of hands on care, and it's there to enrich your episode one experience. Take a moment, head over to the link, and grab the resource. Open up the guided notes and reflection questions document to fill out as you watch this episode. I really hope you take advantage of this resource and that it truly adds value and deepens your understanding and connection to this conversation that we're going to have here today. I love that we already brought the soul and the spirit into this conversation, and how deeply committed you are to that aspect too. I think that's really cool. So,
Hmm.
so you mentioned for 5 years you've been doing the fasting, and I saw that in some of your content and in your course there as well. You
Hmm.
said about 5 years ago you really got into the fasting. So can you tell me about that? Like, how did you get into it?
Hmm.
Just tell me the story of that.
Hmm. Yeah, so basically, my whole interest in health and nutrition and all the things that I'm talking about started at around 16 years of age.
Okay.
That's when I began physical training as well. And so basically, how I started was I was eating multiple meals a day, just like the average person. That's the conventional advice that you often get. If you want to build muscle, you have to eat multiple times per day. And out of nowhere, when I was scrolling on social media one day, I bumped into this guy who was eating just once per day. So basically, he was fasting for 23 hours.
Mhm.
And instantly, that really felt interesting for me because I had that belief that you need to eat multiple times per day just even maintain your physique or have strength even. I know many people are like that, but it's not true at all. So I saw this guy do this, 23 hours of fasting every single day, and he was eating just one big giant meal in the evening. And so this was really interesting for me, and I immediately applied into my life because I'm a person who loves challenges. I believe that's like the best way to learn anything. You have to constantly test things and just experiment with stuff. So I just decided to challenge my own beliefs, and just shift immediately to eating once per day. And I did the same as him. I was fasting for 23 hours out of, just the next day I fasted for 23 hours, had a big meal in the evening, and I continued with that for a week. And instantly I saw many great benefits from it, because before that, when I was eating multiple times a day, I had many issues that the average person suffers from as well. So I had lack of energy, I couldn't digest my food easily, I had trouble sleeping, I always felt bloated, I didn't have mental clarity during the day. And I didn't even realize that all of this was because of the food I was eating, because of the excess consumption. So when I started fasting, after a week, almost immediately, I started noticing these massive benefits. So I had even greater mental clarity. My energy was through the roof during the day. I was training even harder. So it's kind of a paradox. Many people
Yeah.
think that the food they eat, that's what provides them the energy, but really the body is very, very efficient with its energy. Like if you just leave it alone and you don't pollute the body, then you will basically thrive. That's what I've learned with fasting, and that's why I continue to do it up until this day.
Yeah, I mean, just to, you know, throw in part of my experience with that, like the one thing I really noticed was just how overfed we are
Mhm,
as a people, as a species, just to think about the fact that, and I know that my experience was not necessarily typical. I understand that, but just to go so long actually without experiencing real hunger,
mhm,
just made me see like, wow, we really are just very overfed as a species. And that was one of the more intriguing things to really just have revealed through the fasting process, and
mhm,
then like you said, feeling just how incredible the body felt and how clear and focused the mind was. um,
mhm,
Really incredible experience, and definitely made me think about the fact that just, well, if we are so overfed and our body is just constantly in digestion, then that's where most of our energy and attention in the body must be going. And so
mhm,
that's why we don't feel as great or as clear, and we feel sluggish and all those things. And then
mhm,
when we get into this fasting process, we're really cutting that out and shutting down the digestion system for a while, in the extended
mhm,
fast process.
mhm,
And
mhm.
so, just the body really just opens up. It feels like that was a really incredible experience.
Of course, yeah. The main problem that humanity faces today is that the consumption overpowers elimination. So when you're fasting, you're eliminating,
Love that.
your body is healing. But when you're constantly eating, your body, as you said, it's constantly in a digestion mode, and that means it's constantly just accumulating. So the average person just suffers from an excess accumulation. So if you think the body as a bag of pipes, because basically that's what we are. Like we have, like your intestines are pipes, right? So if you constantly eat many times per day, then you're just shoving food into those pipes, and your body doesn't have enough time to eliminate what you keep putting in.
Yeah.
So that's exactly where like all problems arise. Even in the past, Hippocrates himself said that all diseases are a matter of auto intoxication. This means that the body is poisoning itself on its own, like it's a matter of self-poisoning, because there's so
Mm.
much waste inside the body, and all of that goes into your bloodstream. Then you feel the harsh effects of the polluted bloodstream. But basically, that's what disease is. That's what the ancients knew, and like they all practiced fasting for a specific reason. They all recommended even enema. Like all hospitals had, like as soon as you entered the hospital, you would receive an enema and you would fast for like 20 hours, right? So all patients went through fasting enemas because they all knew that disease is just an accumulation of waste matter, because consumption overpowered elimination at some point. So that's how you clean the system. And interestingly, like all almost all past civilizations, they weren't eating as much. So they were spending 18 to 20 hours mostly in a fasted state, and the rest was eating. Now it's like all backwards. We spend 8 hours fasting, and that's during the night when we sleep, and the
Yeah.
rest is eating, because the average person just wakes up, he has something for breakfast, then a snack, then lunch comes, then it's always something.
Yeah.
And you never allow the body to heal. That's the bad part. And yeah, sadly, people think that diseases are, you catch a disease out of nowhere. Most people don't know that disease is self-built. It's all your body just protecting you, right? Because when you keep shoving food in, at some point your body has to stop you. It has to make you sick. And what happens when you get sick? You lose all appetite, so you naturally fast. It's a self-defense mechanism because you're abusing your own body.
Wow. Yeah, that's very powerful too. And I love that because there's a lot of parallels between fasting and the work that I've been doing here on the mental, emotional, and spiritual side as well, and we talk in this work about, you know, dis-ease leading to disease, so mental, emotional, spiritual dis-ease, things that we're holding on to in our life, negative beliefs about ourselves and stories that we tell ourselves and things like that, and living from that state or that context, that mental context, and how that dis-ease cascades into the body and manifests as physical disease.
Mhm,
And so it's a lot of parallels there between that kind of work and what you're saying here about fasting. So I really love that.
mhm,
You also talked a little bit in your response there about the OMAD, OMAD, right? The 1 meal a day protocol
mhm,
and things like that. So I do want to get into, more of the types of fasting and, some of the misconceptions about fasting and stuff like that, if you're ready to go into
mhm.
that. So,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Mhm,
for someone brand new to fasting, just real quick elevator pitch on why they should fast, and then maybe we'll
mhm,
talk about some of the different styles of fasting. How's that sound?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I believe that nowadays fasting is more important than ever because we have food available like everywhere. It's constantly available to us. It wasn't the same as in the past. Food was more scarce in the past. Now it's constantly available. The average person just eats more than he should, basically because he's, intrigued by all the scents, by all the different environmental factors. And we have stopped eating out of hunger. We have stopped eating out of necessity. We just eat because we're bored. We always snack. We just eat because because of relationships and stuff like that. So again, the importance of fasting comes because if you don't fast, you just accumulate more than you eliminate, and at some point you will run into disease. Right? Your body will suffer from it. You even hinder your longevity. You will die even younger if you're not if you're not allowing your body to eliminate. And fasting is one of the best methods to allow your body to eliminate. You naturally fast every single day when you sleep, but nowadays that short-term fast, 8 hours usually, it's not nearly enough. So people have to start fasting a bit longer, and I would suggest that they start with intermittent fasting, which means that you fast for a certain duration per day. So basically, if you just skip breakfast, then you add the hours that you slept, 8 hours, let's say, you skip the breakfast, and then you push the fast a bit longer. So you can fast for 12 hours, 14 hours. If you can make it for 16 hours, then that's incredibly powerful as well. A lot of healing comes from fasting for 16 hours. So fasting, for those who don't know, what I mean by fasting is you abstain from food. So you can still have non-caloric drinks, so things like water or tea, but that's it. You don't have any food, nothing with calories, and that's a water fast. There's also another method of fasting, which is a dry fast. So that means no food, no water. That's even powerful in terms of healing. That's pretty advanced though. Like I don't recommend it to start with. You have to build up to that. It's not. It has a specific preparation. I talk about this in my course as well.
I
But
won't I
yeah,
won't randomly go into that one.
yeah, yeah, that's pretty advanced for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to prepare for it. But other methods of fasting could also be like things like a fruit fast. For example, you fast from everything except fruit, so you just eat only fruits for a designated period of time. Or you
Cool.
fast, you do a juice fast. For example, many people do a juice fast or a juice cleanse. That means that you fast from everything and you only have juices. So this is again a method of allowing your body to eliminate, because juices and fruits, they're not as dense, so your body can digest them easily, and then it can go back to healing itself. So you can still have, it during the day, but then your body can more easily go into healing mode compared to if you were eating, more dense foods like cooked food and stuff like that. Also, one meal a day is that's how I started with fasting. Basically, I was just having water and tea up until dinner, and then at dinner I would have a very big meal. And that's again one method of allowing your body to heal. You fast for 22, 23 hours usually, and then you have one big solid meal.
Cool. And I wanted to ask you about that. And since you're there, if I could, just because the one meal a day was pretty interesting to me personally as well. So when you say like a one big meal a day, like I don't know if you're calorie counting necessarily, but like about, what are we looking at here when we're talking about one big meal?
So this is very intuitive. It takes a lot of experimentation to see like how your body responds to different foods and
Fair.
different portions of foods.
Hmm.
So when I started, to be honest, I was just having a giant meal. Like that was my motivation. That's how I got into fasting. My motivation was just fast all day and then have this big giant meal. Like if you see some screenshots, maybe I can share them with you later. But like I was having like an entire packet of pasta, for example, and then lots of sauces and stuff. Like it was a giant meal, and I will say I was abusing my body with that much portion of food. You don't have to eat that much. But this is how I learned more about my body and how more about my digestion even. So you have to experiment and see what the right portion is for you. Of
Gotcha.
course, you have to make sure that you eat enough and nourish your body. And this is why I recommend only focusing on whole foods. Obviously, you don't want to break your fast with processed foods and man-made stuff. You want to stick to whole foods, natural foods, fruits and vegetables, stuff like that. So that's how yeah, you probably break a fast. We can talk more in depth about it later as well.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. So, just to recap quickly, right? We talked about different types of fasting. So you talked about like a 12-12 fast as one of the intermittent fasting versions, a 16-8, right? 16
Mhm,
hours fasted, and then an 8-hour eating window, right?
mhm.
And then you talked about fruit fasts, which is probably a pretty cool option, especially for beginners, wanting to dip the toes in the water kind of deal.
Exactly.
Um, Dry fast, which you said is obviously more advanced. We obviously have the extended fast, like we talked about, which would
Mhm.
be typically you're just water and tea. And was there any other that I missed there in the recap?
Yeah, and then the juice fast, I think
And the
if you
juice
didn't mention
fast.
it, yeah, the juice fast, yeah.
Yes. Nice. Okay, cool. Yeah, so those are all the different types of fasts. Well, at least as outlined here by Johnny. Maybe
Mhm.
there's, some others out there, but at least, an area as a little jumping off point for anybody that wants to go and research a little more. And obviously, as we'll talk more about as we go through this, you have courses that talk about,
Mhm.
fasting as well. And we'll talk about those courses a little later in the conversation too, for sure. Cool. So, I did want to ask you about like the common misconceptions with fasting and why you think fasting maybe isn't discussed so much in the health
Mhm.
space or in the medical field or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So definitely common
Mhm.
misconceptions because I know for me when I was going through this, obviously it was spontaneous. So people are like, "What the hell's going on with Sean?" First of all, but then
Yeah.
of course, the first thing I'm hearing is like, oh, you die in 6 days if you don't eat food. But the common misconception there is that's without water. If you're
Mhm.
going without food and water, that then the whole 6 7 days timeline, means a bit more. But that's one of the common misconceptions I ran into in my experience. So can you tell us if there's any more? And then, like I
Mhm,
said, why don't we hear about fasting a lot more?
mhm. Definitely, yeah. You have to address all misconceptions, and sadly, we've been bombarded by many of them. So many people think that fasting is starvation. They think that if they stop eating, their body will just die, or it won't be able to regenerate, or have the necessary nutrients or stuff like that in order to
Yeah,
thrive.
I
But
heard he's starving himself. I heard that a lot.
yeah,
So, and fair.
yeah, yeah.
Listen, if the people that said this are watching, fair.
Yeah, you have to address all of these misconceptions, and what I recommend is shifting a negative belief into a positive one. So if you believe that fasting is starvation, so let me tell you this: like two people can do this the same exact fast, but if one carries negative beliefs, he will experience totally different results. So your beliefs, what you believe fasting is, will entirely affect your results, right?
I believe that
So you
100%. I
yeah,
believe
you
that.
have to keep your mind on your side. This is what I always recommend. Like, you have a mind, don't just have it there shouting negative beliefs at you. Because if you tell yourself that you're starving, if you tell yourself that you're going to be weak when you don't eat, all these negative beliefs, then you will experience the results of those negative beliefs, and it's not pleasurable to go into a fast and experience, weakness and pain and all of that. So you have to keep your mind on your side. Your beliefs affect the fast way more than you probably think. And yeah, just address all these misconceptions. Most of them are lies, because if you just experiment with fasting, you will see for yourself that you're actually not growing weaker as you fast. You actually have more energy. Like, as the days go, even hunger, as you experienced it, it is no longer a thing after a certain period of days. So yeah, it takes trial and error. Many people also, what you said, like, people think that you will die when you stop eating or drinking after 7 days. That's another misconception, because many people have done a dry fast like that for even up to 30 days. So like a whole month
Yeah.
without food or water. So it's all possible. Most of it, like all the blockages, are in your mind, and you really have to address those inner conversations before you go into a long fast, at least, right? Try to keep your mind on your side, definitely.
Yeah, and I,
And
I was
yeah.
going to address that one with you too. Just
Mhm,
like I said, that typical misconception about eating and after 6 or 7 days you die if you're not drinking water. I was wanted to address that too and say, like, but do we have evidence of dry fasts even going longer than that? So it's just
mhm,
a misconception altogether. Obviously, the dry fast is not necessarily the typical experience, but if we have people that have shown that they've done it and safely and healthily, then it's just a misconception altogether, really.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
And if you actually get into this space of healing and fasting, you will actually see many people thrive when they're fasting. I've noticed, I've helped many people, fast for even weeks, 7 and 2 weeks even, and they all came even better, after the fast. They were even better in health than before. So your body will not die, your body will not perish. Those are all limiting beliefs, and I believe those beliefs are all passed to us from society and even our parents. Um, First and foremost, fasting, as you like to answer the second question, fasting is not really discussed anymore as much as in the past, because fasting really is what allows the body to heal. So nowadays we depend a lot on like doctors and man-made medicine and all these pills. Many people think that health comes in a pill form nowadays, whereas in the past they were all like, if you were sick, you would just fast. There was no, all these medicines and stuff. Sure, they would use herbs, like they would just fast and only drink herbal teas, for example. But that was the primary way of healing back in the day. Nowadays, we like modern medicine took over, and so they, like, it's not a benefit for them to push fasting as a means of healing, because fasting is free. You can't make money out of it. So they have to make you dependent on some pill that you constantly buy time and time again. they won't ever teach you about fasting. No school teaches you about fasting. They all actually depict the opposite. The like when I was in school, I remember they always showed us kids in Africa starving, after 5 days with no food. Like they showed us those images, and naturally, when you're a child, you adopt all these images and beliefs so easily. Your mind is like a sponge. So if they show you someone fasting and they look like their body is withering, you naturally get that mental image and you think fasting is starvation. Or another misconception, like our own parents sometimes do this, and they tell us, eat all the food on your plate or else you'll grow weak. Like how many times have we heard about that? So I certainly did. And then as the child grows up into an adult, they believe that if they don't eat all the food in their plate, they will grow weak. So when they fast, they will actually grow weaker because of this mental belief, and they have it very deep within them. They haven't addressed it, but it still has these effects on them even up until that day, right? Even as
Absolutely.
adults.
And that's a
Yeah.
perfect parallel to, again, the stuff that I've been doing here with the mental, emotional, and spiritual work that I've been doing. It's just, something happens as a child and we tell ourselves a story about what happened and it becomes our subconscious programming. That's the basic gist of this work, and it's just exactly the same there with the misconceptions about eating and fasting and all that stuff. It's just beliefs that have been passed down from generation to generation and have become programming. And so when you even mention the idea of fasting, it strikes a chord with that programming and boom, automatically sends fear, up into your mind about the concept, just right off the bat. And so just imagine that as the very first stumbling block, those
Mhm.
programs that we've been taught and have adopted about eating and fasting and all that stuff. And so that's stumbling block number one. And then like try
Yeah.
to introduce the different types of fasting or even extended fasting. I'm sure that's um, it's clear why that can be a tough sell for people, and
Mhm.
then as you mentioned, as far as why we don't talk about it as much, that all makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
If you can't make money
Definitely.
off
Yeah.
fasting, there's not going to be too many people shouting about it.
Yeah.
Except
Yeah.
for
Sadly.
people like yourself who see
Mhm.
the value in helping people
Mhm.
and healing
Mhm.
people, so
Yeah.
I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, we definitely forgot that the body is its own healer, and this is exactly why I love what I do, because I really want to remind people that their body can heal basically anything, any kind of disease. You just have to to prepare the perfect conditions for your body to heal itself, because your body heals itself naturally. It always regenerates day, like minute after minute, hour after hour. So you have to prepare the perfect conditions. First and foremost, you have to stop food intake, because food takes up energy, right? If your body is busy directing energy towards the digestive processes, then no energy will be available for healing. First and foremost, you have to stop eating, and or at least shift into less dense foods, like more easily digestible options, so that you allow your body more energy to heal. People have healed even diseases like cancer from 2 months of just drinking juices only. So it's all possible. You just have to allow your body the right environment. Basically, that's it.
It's really incredible to think about it that way and just how intelligent the body really can be and what's really possible when we allow the body time to actually catch up, really
Mhm.
and give us a little bit of that healing process that we really basically never allow it to go into with overconsumption. And it's a societal thing and a generational thing as well, just like you said. So
Mhm.
it's pretty incredible to think about. But I did want to say too, just to back up what you're saying here, from my personal experience when going through this 7-day fasts, I felt like the best version of myself. Like
Mhm.
I felt like the best version of myself that's ever existed. So that was really incredible to feel and to experience. And so when you're saying like about all these misconceptions and stuff, it's so funny how they've been passed down, even though like the people that passed them down to us never tried fasting. Like everyone that
Yeah.
said don't fast and you need to eat and you need to do 3 meals a day and like has never tried fasting. And so it's just
Hmm.
funny how it just gets passed down with no experience of the thing that we're saying not to do too, you know? So I'm really
Exactly.
happy that my body went into this and I was able to just follow it because, I came right up against those misconceptions and learned how untrue they were and just learned how intelligent my body is and just how incredible I can feel when I give my body a chance. So that was a really cool
Hmm.
experience.
That's awesome to hear. Yeah.
All right. We've gone over the major types of fasting. Um, you know, we talked about ways to prepare and things like that. I don't know, maybe we should just, if I can just ask you that question just a little more explicitly, just ways to prepare for, I guess, for anyone beginning, if they want to go into intermittent fasting, I guess just like if there's maybe
Hmm.
a couple day process that you would
Hmm.
suggest for getting ready to do that. And then
Hmm.
like maybe for someone wanting to do an extended fast, if there's any kind of preparation you suggest.
Hmm. Yeah, so for beginners, I found that the best method is to just eliminate all snacks that you have during the day and have two solid meals per day.
You lost
And
everybody. You lost them.
yeah, but but look, like
I know.
if you have two solid meals, so make that a rule. You eat two solid meals, two good meals, nourishing meals. You will have no desire to snack afterwards.
Yeah.
Many people just don't eat properly, and they
Mhm.
have that constant desire, constant cravings. If you
Absolutely.
eat properly and nourishing food, then you won't have those cravings. So have two solid meals, no snacks in the day, and try to push your breakfast, the first meal that you have, try to push it just a bit every single day, right? So if you normally eat breakfast at 10 a.m., next day try to push it to 10:30 and just incrementally continue pushing it until you eat like your first meal at probably like lunch, right? And if you stop all food intake by 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. around that time, then you already fast for like 18 hours, 20 hours per day. That's an amazing start. Even if you can make it to 16 as a beginner, that's already a huge win. So that's what I suggest. Two solid meals per day. Make sure they're very nourishing. Don't eat junk food. Don't eat processed stuff. Don't abuse your body with all that man-made stuff. Just eat really good nourishing meals. And that's how you get into intermittent fasting. If you want to advance and fast for over a day, even 2 days and stuff, I have a rule that I mention to everyone. For every single day that you fast, spend one day in preparation. So if you want to fast for 20, let's say if you want to fast for 48 hours, like 2 days, at least spend 2 days in preparation. So how do you prepare? You want to eliminate all processed foods, as we discussed, because processed food, it's very addicting. You don't want to be eating processed foods and then go into a fast because you will constantly have all those cravings. And try to minimize the density of your food. So stop eating very heavy meals. Don't go for greasy, oily stuff, or heavy foods that everyone knows what those heavy foods are for their own body, right? Foods that make you bloated and stuff like that. Like avoid all those. Try to eat very simply. Stick to fruits and vegetables and smoothies and juices. Try to hydrate your body. That's how you prepare, and then you go for the 2 day water fast, let's say. And you will notice that if you do the preparation properly, the fast itself will be a lot easier. I've went into fasting with no preparation, and the effects, like it was very miserable first and foremost, and you don't derive much value from it because your body is trying to, you eat all this junk before, and then your body is trying to deal with it during the fast, and it can't really tap into greater depths of healing. You want to prepare properly, hydrate the body, make sure that you clean the colon out as much as you can through food and juices and stuff like that, and then go into the fast with a relatively clean body already, because that's only when your body can go even deeper and heal different organs and tissues and stuff like that. You don't want your body to be dealing with the food that you ate 2 days ago, right? if you want your fast to actually be efficient. So yeah, that's how you prepare.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, it's it's funny when you say all that because obviously, like I said, this was a totally spontaneous fast for me. I had no preparation going into it and all that stuff. I know I
Mhm.
jokingly told you, but like my last meal was a huge sub sandwich. Like I unfortunately I'm not the most conscious eater at this time, although on the other side of the fast I'm being a lot more conscious, and I want to just, set up a better structure around that as well so I can be better about that going forward. And that's one of the beautiful things about this fast is feeling like I just got a reset,
Mhm.
and I can just pivot into just a new way of being completely, but
Mhm.
uh just funny the way it happened like that. It's just my last meal is just this huge sub sandwich, and then like my body's like, all right, let's do a 7-day fast now. And um part of why I was so amazed by how easy the process was for me, and just kind of why it felt like it was more than just a physiological experience. It felt like
Mhm.
something more than that. It felt like my body was just starting to align with the work that I've been doing mentally and emotionally and
Mhm.
spiritually, and just wanted to show me what it could do at that time, because I know that a 7-day fast with no preparation should not be, as easy or effortless as it was for me. So
Mhm.
it's why I'm just so grateful for the experience, because I know that I was guided through the experience, guided to it, and guided through it.
Yep.
And it had a lot of major benefits for me. I was able to just see what I can feel like and what I can be like with this new form of vitality, that
Mhm.
can be unlocked through the fasting process, and just better eating in general going forward. So
Yep.
yeah, really, really cool experience. But that takes us right into what I wanted to get to next, which is really just the biology of fasting, especially with the extended fast. I mean, sorry, excuse me. You talked about the fact that even intermittent fasting, like 16-hour, 16/8 intermittent fasting, can have good health benefits for you.
Mhm.
But obviously, I know that going into the extended fasts unlocks even more biological and health benefits and stuff like that. So,
Mhm.
if you could just run us through, what some of those benefits are, what's going on inside the body, and what
Mhm.
the magic and the intelligence of the body is when that we unlock through fasting.
Definitely, yeah. So basically, a fast really starts when your insulin levels drop. So your blood sugar has to drop, and then that's when the fast initiates. That's why I mentioned you don't want to overconsume before the fast. This is one common mistake that many people do. Like right before the fast, they eat like as much as they can, and then the next day they go into the fast. First and foremost, the fast is going to be miserable like that for most people. And secondly, your body is not really tapping into its healing potential if you have eaten all that much. Like you delay how fast your body actually kickstarts all the healing processes. So this is also why you must prepare correctly. But yeah, once your insulin levels drop, your blood sugar drops, then your body initiates a house clean, basically. Like everything starts to clean from the inside and out. Just like you tidy up your house, you clean, you clean everything in your house. The same happens in your body, and it's very vital that it happens regularly.
I love that
Um,
analogy, the house cleaning. I love
yeah,
that.
yeah. Otherwise, if you just never clean, then if you never clean your house, then the house is going to be all smelly. It's going to be, most people's bodies are like that because they never actually fast. They never clean up from within, and it's from within that it's the most important. Many people clean up externally. They take a shower, they cleanse the body externally, but really it's from within that it matters most. So yeah, basically what happens as you fast is your body starts this self-repair, and all the toxins, all the accumulation of waste, all the poisons begin to mobilize and they begin to eliminate out of the body. This is also why it's sometimes very challenging to endure a fast, because the more toxic a person is, the more challenging the fast will be. Their body has to deal with more amounts of toxins. So again, you have to prepare for it to ensure that the fast is like a bit easier. Prepare for it a few days before. Let your body heal and repair through a fruit diet or through a juice diet for 2 days, and then go into the fast. That's how you allow your body to experience less detox symptoms. So many hormonal benefits occur during a fast as well. So your human growth hormone goes up. Human growth hormone has to do with self-regeneration. It helps the body, repair itself as well. Many people take injections, human growth hormone injections, but your body releases human growth hormone naturally through fasting. Even 18 hours, 24 hours, the levels of human growth hormone skyrocket. Testosterone goes up as well. This is also crucial for males. Cortisol goes down, so this means your body is going to enter like a more calm, peaceful state, right? You allow your body to calm down and lower stress levels. Your inflammation will also lower during a fast. Like many people experience even less joint pain during a fast, or even after, like joint pain just ceases to exist because your body actually has time to deal with that.
Yeah, that was huge for
And
me. I started
Mhm,
feeling that reduced inflammation and stuff like that in the body, and especially like in joints and things like that. And you know what I was getting a lot was like this, pain back here in like the shoulder blades. It's like a
mhm,
common pain I've had for just a lot. It happens to me randomly. And
mhm.
during this fast, gone completely. And I just
That's
felt
it.
like my body just felt so free and so loose and just flow, and that was
Mhm.
really incredible. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there with my personal experience as well, but please continue.
Yeah, that's amazing to notice. Even me myself, like sometimes I'll do like 4 weeks of very hard training, and then my body, I have sometimes joint pain. I have all this inflammation built up from the training, and then I'll stop training and also fast at the same time for a few days, and I feel like a completely new person afterwards, and then I can go back into training, with even more efficiency. Like if you allow your body to actually heal all these damages before they become injuries, that's a very smart thing to do, right? So you have to allow your body to deal with that in its own way. And yeah, also what happens within the body is, which is pretty amazing, is that the longer you fast, the body releases stem cells. Stem cells are basically cells that have no job in the body, but they become the cells that your body needs the most. So let's say you deal with like like let's say your body needs dental tissue, for example, and then for whatever reason your teeth have issues, right? And so when you fast and your body releases these stem cells become, they go into the teeth and they help repair it. So whatever issue your body is dealing with, then those stem cells will go right to that area and help repair and heal. Again, many people use they do stem cell therapy, and it's like incredibly expensive as well. They don't fast to allow the body to release the stem cells naturally, right? So it's very it's pretty unwise, right? Your body has all these different mechanisms of healing. You don't have to depend externally. You just have to allow your body to repair itself, basically.
Yeah, excuse me, sorry. I thought that
Mhm,
was really incredible when I was looking into just the health benefits of fasting, just to see the, as you mentioned, human growth hormone on there and stem cell production. I was just like, wow, this is incredible. I mean, just as
mhm,
you said, these are two, probably more than the more expensive treatments that people that these treatments are very heavily sought after. Like people are really spending lots of money for these things, for human growth hormone, just for, as we know, a lot, especially in organized sports,
mhm,
used for performance enhancement and things like that. In bodybuilding and things like that, just every area where people are trying to get an edge in human performance, people are looking for human growth hormone, and so it's really
Hmm.
incredible to see. And I think I saw that it's like several 100% increase in
Oh
like
yeah.
human
Yeah.
growth hormone with these extended fasts, and then as you said, the production of stem cells. I mean, this is just one of the more revolutionary breakthroughs of modern science is learning about stem cells and what they can do, and trying to put them to work. But we have all the ethical issues that surround stem cells, and that have really hampered and slowed stem cell research and application.
Hmm.
And then here we are with fasting. Just extended fast just naturally has your body produce more stem cells and sends them to. I was reading about like connective tissues and stuff like that. I actually my right ACL is completely torn. I
Hmm.
tore it maybe 3 years ago at this point. I just can't really fit the rehab into my life. But I was joking with some of my cousins when this fast was going on. I was like, after this couple days, I'm going to have a whole new ACL in my knee. But I know,
Yeah.
obviously, it's not necessarily going to go that far. But it was, also just all the other tissues that are in that area though that may have been damaged but not torn can have some repair going on as well. I know like my meniscus was bruised or something like that. And so that might be something that's actually been healed or is in the process
Hmm.
of healing through that extended fast that I went through. So really
Hmm.
incredible to see those types of benefits just from your body's own intelligence.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. And also, what in your case, like the positive expectation, the positive belief really helps with the body healing itself. Like if you believe that your body is going to heal the knee, heal the injury during a fast, that's, you're keeping your mind on your side. This is why I mentioned, not having negative beliefs and just understanding. If you understand what your body is doing, and you can do that through research, you can read books on fasting, you can listen to such podcasts. If you understand what your body is doing, then you will be more safe. You will know what you're doing, during a fast. You will not have that fear, because fear is a major blockage. You don't want any fear. You want to keep your mind on your side and have faith that your body is doing what it knows to do.
Yeah, I really love that. I really love that. And that's why I feel I was able to go so long and so successfully, is just because, like I said, I know this was my body's manifestation, or the physical manifestation of what's been going on mentally and emotionally and spiritually for me. I
Mhm.
just know that it was just a direct correlation. And so I think that's why it was so easy for me to go through, just because of how much work I've done, and just where I am now mentally and emotionally and spiritually, and in passion and all that stuff. And so
Mhm.
I love that you see the mindset going into the fast as much important as the fast itself,
Mhm.
because your outcomes are going to be directly dependent on that. I really love that approach, and I think that the people that are following me with this channel, a lot of them come from the same program that I've been working through and stuff. So I think it'll be great for them to be in the mental state that they're in, and then maybe start approaching the physical state with this fasting and stuff like that. So I'm
Mhm.
really excited for this. You said you can read books on fasting to get a better understanding. I'm like, no, you watch this podcast, damn it. That's where you're going to get your
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
No, but this is a really awesome talk so far. I think we've already provided a ton of benefit to anybody that's going to view this talk, and we still have more to discuss
Mhm.
if you're good to keep going, Johnny.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's go. I mean, we've been talking about I guess it's a perfect transition. You just started talking about how, having your mental right is going to lead to better outcomes um, in the fast itself. And so let's go into how the fast then affects your mental and emotional state, you know?
Mhm, mhm,
The next question I have for you then is like, what mental and emotional shifts have you experienced personally through fasting, or have you maybe even seen from people that you worked with, if there's like a
mhm,
story that you remember that you'd like to
mhm.
share, either one, personal or with someone you worked with? I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, yeah. First and foremost, the mental benefits. Like if you have never fasted, you're really missing out because, like you know how they say we're not using, we're basically using 2% of our own brains. I feel like when you fast, you use a lot more than that. And that's because you don't have any food affecting your system. You're not intoxicated by substances. Your body is not processing ingredients and stuff like that. So naturally, you have more mental power, and also because your gut is directly connected with your brain. So if you keep your gut clean, and fasting helps eliminate a lot of waste matter in the gut, then naturally you will have mental clarity. You will feel calm in your brain, peacefulness, right? And you will have clear thoughts, stuff like that. Your intuition will increase as well. And these are all massive benefits, and you just have to, stop eating, and naturally they kick in. The emotional part is also very interesting because fasting really exposes a lot of emotions that are stuck in our body. So, how do emotions get stuck in our body is basically, everyone feels emotions on a day-to-day basis, but some people allow the emotions to be processed and others suppress them. So, naturally, most people just suppress the emotions. And how they do this is they feel anger and they go have a certain food, or they feel sad, they go drink that wine, or they have like food is a sedative for them. And so when you don't process the emotions through allowing them to actually be processed and not suppress them through substances, that's the proper way, right? If you have to do that, otherwise they get stored in the body. And when you fast, that's when the emotions creep up again, because the emotions don't just dissolve, they stay within your body, they affect your system way more than you know. So fasting is really like you feel like you're carrying this huge load on your back, and then which is emotional baggage, and then you just suddenly drop it when all these emotions are processed. And what happens when most people complete a fast, they say they feel lighter. So it's not only physical waste, but it's also emotional waste that you never processed. And it goes very deep. Like we have stored emotions from even back in childhood. Some kid in your class called you fat, for example, and you felt sad, and then you ate something to suppress that emotion. That emotion is still within you somewhere because you probably never allowed your body to process that. So what happens during a fast, these emotions will expose themselves, as I mentioned, and you might feel sadness out of nowhere, or you might feel anger out of nowhere. It's not out of nowhere, it's just that your body is resurfacing those stuck emotions. And it's good to keep going with the fast and let the body process them fully. Don't, like many people, they think that that's an indication to break the fast. For example, they feel sadness and like they think that, okay, now my body is done, I can have something to eat. But what another rule of mine with fasting is you can only break your fast when you're feeling completely fine. If you're emotional, the fast must continue because you're dealing with these emotions. You have to allow the body to process them. You can only break a fast, you should only break a fast when you're feeling completely fine. No detox symptoms, no emotional no emotions and stuff like that. So make sure that you're completely fine. Let your body process these emotions because it's very vital. Once it does, then you will feel a lot lighter for sure.
I love that. And especially like again for my followers and the people that have been going through the program that I went through and doing all this work on emotional and mental and spiritual and especially these ideas about subconscious programming and um things that happened in our childhood that we just still need to face and process and understand more fully from an adult lens and dissolve the subconscious beliefs that we adopted as a result of those things that happened. And so I love that this fasting can almost be like another method for those of us that are doing this mental and emotional work. Fasting can almost be another tool to help face and process those things, it sounds like. So I think that's
Mhm,
kind of a cool addition to this idea of fasting, that it doesn't just have to be a physical practice, but that it can
mhm.
also be a mental, emotional, and spiritual practice too. I really like that idea.
Yeah, definitely. It heals you. It fasting allows your body to heal on all levels, as you said, mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical as well. So it's like a complete body reset, and you experience that already. But if you want to achieve like a greater depth of cleansing, you have to aim for a bit of more prolonged fast. So you won't achieve all that deep cleanse with a 16-hour fast. You have to really push your body, go past a few days, and that's where the real healing begins. I feel like if you, like even for the average person, if they fast 72 hours at least once per month, or even once every 2 months, that's already huge, and it's what allows their body to reset and cleanse itself. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I was just thinking about just this this idea of the spiritual and emotional benefits of the fasting. Or it's funny, benefits, but it's gonna bring that stuff up and you're really gonna have to face it and process it. But
Mhm,
benefits, because
mhm,
that's what we
mhm,
need. That's what we need for true health and vitality, mentally and emotionally. But for
mhm.
sure, as you were just saying with the extended fasts, for me, it took a couple days before I really got to that point of starting to feel the emotional, aspect of it, and the emotional and spiritual side of it, and just really bringing those things up and facing them and feeling some stored emotions and things. But also too, I'm just here in my house. I'm still going to my job as a teacher. I'm still coming back home to my three kids under 4 years old,
Well,
and the living space that I'm at here. So I think it was a little harder too to slip into those more transcendental states, when you're dealing with
mhm,
the kind of space that I was in.
mhm, mhm.
Is there something to be said for that, where environment while you're fasting can also aid in the more emotional and spiritual aspects of it?
Definitely, yeah. Environment plays a huge role. I really believe that you yourself were being guided by God Himself, because your fast was pretty much done effortlessly, even in such an environment. So that's very unique. But for the average person, for a beginner especially, you want to fast in a natural environment, at least minimize the noise as much as possible. So this is why I recommend just going to nature's, find some place very natural. I don't really recommend fasting in the city. I know many people live in cities, but it's not as easy. Okay, so if you actually do a fast in nature or somewhere more natural, it's going to be way more effortless. The noise itself and all these environmental stressors, they do affect how your fast accelerates, right, during your fast. So you will actually, sometimes it becomes a lot harder than it should be, just because you have to deal with the noises, you have to deal with other people around you, especially if they're not giving you, if they're not supportive, right? So definitely environment plays a huge role. But sometimes, if a person is strong, like you yourself, then of course they can just go through it and with great success, right? So it all depends on the individual as well.
Yeah. I don't recommend it. I'll say that.
Yeah.
That was your
Yeah.
still cutting up my kids' dinner and stuff like that. And I was like, no, it was honestly, that part is more of just a funny thing to say that, I still had to cut up their dinner and stuff. But honestly, I didn't feel that attachment
Mhm.
though. That's more the joke of it, but like even cutting up their dinner, it was just like, oh, it would be nice to eat. But it I didn't feel that like attachment or need anymore
Mhm.
at that point in the fast. And that was definitely one of the more interesting things to experience. And one of the beautiful things that I've really taken from the fast is just this idea of true choice
Mhm.
versus just craving or ritual, and that's what I started to realize and feel there when I was there cutting up their food. It was just like, I want to eat this just out of ritual, I
Mhm.
want to eat this just out of craving, but I'm not actually hungry for it, and so I can choose to not eat it now, and and when I would get some, hunger, not hunger, when I would get rumblings in my stomach that we would typically associate with hunger, I
Mhm.
I started to realize like, oh, this is just craving, and
Yeah.
and this is a stomach that has been connected to a brain that's believed in scarcity my whole life, and
Mhm.
and I started to just recently with my mental and emotional state, I started to just, especially with the creativity that I'm doing here with my page, I started to realize that just there's no scarcity in the creative space like this. And so I can just create and do what I want and do what I enjoy and what I'm passionate about. And as long
Mhm.
as I show up that way and do those things, there's going to be people that resonate with it. And so I
Mhm.
kind of started to adopt this whole idea of just no scarcity. And I think that's where my body fell in line with that. And so when I would feel those grumblings, I would just say, you know, uh, there's no scarcity here. I can and will feed you as soon as
Mhm.
it's time to do so. And that's when true hunger returns, as we talked about. Um,
Yep.
and so that was really cool for me to experience and just see that play out with the body and with the mind together at the same time was uh, pretty cool. So um,
Mhm.
yeah, I definitely don't recommend the whole it's funny because I felt like I was checking every box that you were saying. I live in the
Yeah.
city. I cannot cancel out noise no matter how hard I try. And I did not prepare for it either,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
somehow went through it, and like I said, guided to it and guided through it. So, hell of an experience. Just funny how many boxes I'm checking for what you shouldn't do to go into a successful fast. But I love those pointers that you gave to everybody, and I would love to be able to do like a little weekend getaway, to out in nature and maybe have
Mhm.
that be like a whole fasted weekend or something. Like that does sound like a really awesome experience. I would love to have that experience too. And I can imagine,
Mhm.
how much smoother it would make the fasting process too to be out in that kind of environment and stuff. So for
Definitely,
sure.
yeah, yeah. For first and foremost, you prove to yourself that you can endure even the harshest of environments, and that's already boosted. It boosted your mental power for sure. So the next fast that you'll do, it's going to be even easier, especially if you go out in a more natural environment. So definitely, it was a huge win for you, even though you went through it unprepared. Even though you had those distractions. So definitely, and one thing you mentioned about the hunger, it naturally goes away. Like after, if you can go through the first 24 hours, hunger levels just go down afterwards because your body realizes, you're not getting any food, then it stops producing the hormone associated with hunger. So naturally it goes down, it goes very silent. You have no desire to eat, even if you're cutting up food, even if you're preparing food for others, you will have no desire. And also you're way more connected with yourself at that point. So if you're 2 days in a fast, 3 days even more, then you're very connected with yourself. And you know exactly if your body is hungry or not, or if it's craving something, or if it wants some food because of an emotion, or because it's an environmental cue, for example. Many people just fall for these patterns, and they have food while their body is not even desiring food. So fasting really helps you connect with yourself like that. And if you have fasting in your lifestyle, you will notice that you only eat when your body actually craves nourishment, not during the day, or like when your body doesn't really need the food, right? So you can really separate those, when your body actually wants the food and all the cravings that every human gets. But you don't have to immediately gratify all those cravings. Like, realize where they're coming from first, and then you can act accordingly. But fasting also restores that natural hunger. So also, it's not the stomach rumblings that you mentioned. That really sometimes has to do with your stomach shrinking to its original size. So the stomach is the size of our personal fist. It's only that small, but if it can also expand to abnormal sizes. If you overconsume, like most people do, then their stomach expands to an abnormal size. And when they go into a fast, they stop eating, their stomach begins to shrink again. And that is the discomfort that they feel in the stomach. It's not the stomach asking you for food, and it just has to do with the body balancing itself again, right? So the stomach shrinks to its original size. It's not asking for food. And you can prove this to yourself if you want. Like, have a big pot of rice like tonight for dinner, for example. Like, eat as much as you want. The next day, I promise you, you're going to wake up without hunger. It's not hunger, it's just your body shrinking, again, shrinking the stomach to its original size, because you expanded it to an abnormal capacity. This always happens. So yeah, once the stomach shrinks, and the hormonal your body stop producing the hormone associated with hunger, then naturally you won't even crave food. Some people notice that even on the, like, they feel that hunger, that those cravings, during the second day of their fast. But for example, at the end of the 10th day, those cravings just disappear, where normally you would think that you would be hungrier at the 10th day, for example, but that's not the case. Your body stops producing that hormone. You can even fast for longer durations. It becomes way more easy once your body understands what you're doing.
Absolutely. And, you know, not that I've gone that long. Obviously, mine was just the 7 days, but I'm interested in even longer fasts, like you mentioned. But one thing, like you said there, that just became so clear for me during the fast was just those distinctions. Just really truly understanding and being connected to your body and knowing when it's actual hunger or when it's just a craving or ritual or an emotional
Mhm.
signaling or whatever the case may be. Those distinctions just became so clear in that fasted state, and that was one of the coolest things to take away from it. I'm telling you, it was really an incredible learning experience. That first fast there. Obviously my body took incredible benefits away from it. My body felt amazing. My mind was so clear, but most of all, just the learning experience that it was. Understanding the difference between hunger and ritual and craving and emotions and how overfed we are and all those things was really just
Yeah.
incredible to learn through experience. I think it's Ben Franklin's quote that says, you know, uh, teach me and I'll remember, but include me and I will learn. And
Mhm.
that's kind of how this first fast felt. It was my body including me and teaching me, by bringing me along through the fast and what's possible.
Mhm.
That's really how it felt. And so it's one thing to study fasting or read about fasting or watch a video or a podcast about fasting. It's another
Mhm.
thing to actually experience it and to have felt it and to have learned through the experience itself. And so I'm so grateful for my body just throwing me into this, and so grateful for now being able to have this conversation with some lived experience of it too. It's just makes everything that you're saying
Mhm.
just gives it so much more clarity for me
Mhm.
actually having gone through it now at this point. So
Mhm.
just really cool to have that experience. So for those of you watching, if you're interested in fasting and in the benefits that we're talking about, and learning about those misconceptions that we talked about, and coming up against them, and seeing for yourself and learning through experience, I really recommend actually trying this stuff out. Just obviously, within the safe measures that we've laid out in this conversation, the safe measures that you would learn from Jonny's courses, and of course, talking to your own doctors and medical professionals, just to be clear before you go into anything. But especially like Jonny talked about, the for beginners, just trying out a little intermittent fasting and things like that. I can't say enough for getting your hands dirty yourself and actually trying it out and learning
Mhm.
through the experience. It's one thing to listen to Jonny talk and to listen to me talk about my experience. It's another thing to feel it and do it for yourself. So again, this isn't meant to be medical advice or anything like that. Please consult your medical professionals and all that sort of stuff. But um, give it a try once you do that. So,
Mhm.
anyway, we started talking a little bit about the spiritual aspect um, of fasting. I mean, you started the conversation right off the bat talking about, being a spiritual being in human form, essentially with your name there, Avatar Jonny. And so I'm super interested in that, of course. Like I've said, the work that I've been doing is all mental, emotional, but especially spiritual as well. And this exact believing that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, right? And trying to reclaim and remember our spirituality honestly, right? To remember and reveal our
Mhm.
spirituality
Mhm.
first, before we can then just then be that, instead of being the human, just being the boundless spiritual beings that just see possibility and what's available, instead of limiting
Mhm.
ourselves, um, before we can even experience the boundless potential of spirit, in physical
Mhm.
form. So um, I'd love to hear you talk a bit more about that, about your spiritual beliefs, and especially as you started outlining them at the beginning of the conversation, and then just how that ties into fasting, and how maybe you can use fasting for personal and spiritual awakening, and those sorts of things.
Mhm. Yeah, first and foremost, I feel like we're all awakened beings already. We're all enlightened. We just have a lot of blockages that don't allow us to fully experience that. And fasting obviously clears all of that. It clears all the noise, and naturally, it helps you tune in with your higher self, like with yourself. You feel more connected with God. You have it really heightens your intuition as well. And for example, I always use fasting when, like before I make any major life decisions. So I'll just go into a fast because I know right there and then that I'm going to be completely clear, and I will have God's answer. I will be more receptive to it. So if you struggle, if anyone struggles with, their calling in life, or what they should uh, go for next, just fast. Like, this is my recommendation: just fast and let the answer come to you, because the answers always come to us, right? But we suppress ourselves so much, we abuse ourselves so much with food and substances, that we can't really be conscious enough. We're almost like operating unconsciously most of the day, and we pray to external temples, for healing or for advice and stuff like that, but we don't cater for the the human temple, right? The Spirit of God dwells within us. And I believe that when you fast, you naturally become more connected with God. You naturally have the right answers pop up like out of nowhere. And you know what to do because you're way more intuitive, right? You act based on intuition. And that's the most powerful form of guidance. We're all guided. So you either allow this you're either receptive to this guidance, or you're constantly suppressing yourself with food and alcohol and other substances. Food is also uh, it's like in the same page, like almost as alcohol, for example, because like if you stay away from food, you notice how much it numbs you, right? Alcohol numbs you as well. You're not yourself, almost like you can't really feel yourself fully when you drink alcohol. And it's the same with food, even, because if you eat all that junk that mankind eats nowadays, with all the processed stuff, all the sugary stuff, all these artificial ingredients, you can't really feel like yourself. You're hindering the connection with your own body, and thus you hinder the connection with God. And then you can't really expect, to be guided or to find the right answers. You will just drive through life unconsciously, and that's like the worst way to go about it, right? Especially when naturally God wants to guide you, but you're not receptive. So fasting really restores that connectedness, right? You feel more receptive to the answers that's available to you.
I love that. And so you said God several times there. If you don't mind, I'd love to ask you what that means to you. Is it God as far as like a specific organized religion, or is God to you more like, creator, source, or what is that to you, if you don't mind getting into that?
Mhm. Yeah, I'm not part of any organized religion. I don't believe in any religion. I just know that there is a higher power guiding all of us. And if you want to access that higher power, you have to access it internally. So you have to go within. And that's what I learned through fasting. And you can also see that and test that for yourself. Like anyone watching this podcast, if you fast, you will notice that, almost like God is speaking to you when you stop numbing yourself, when you actually do a fast. So yeah, I learned a lot more about God when I started fasting, and not so much, when I was going into external temples and, all sorts of other stuff that many people do. So I feel like first go within, learn how your body functions, connect with the higher power that's already within you, and then you will notice it for yourself. Yeah, basically.
I love that. A lot of the work that I've been doing is based on like non-dualism. Like just we are all one with source. We're all just there's one source that divided itself into every being, everything that is. As a way to experience itself and to experience life and loss and love and all of those things. So I think that's really beautiful what you're outlining there in your own beliefs, that not necessarily any one specific organized religion, just the fact that there is some higher power, there is some God, there is some creator or source, and that that we're all guided through this life and through this experience, and that we can all reclaim that essence of spirit that's within us, and to learn about our own connection to source, and what's possible for us in our physical state here, as well as just aligning our mental and emotional side with that as well, and recognizing that some of the what you were saying there in your response either to this question or one of the previous ones just made me think about like the separation that you experience in fasting. And so you talked about, this is what you were saying. It was while you were talking about how you recognize what's hunger, what's craving, what's ritual, what's emotion. I was saying there's that separation, from hunger now, because usually, even if it was the emotional thing, you would just go eat. But now you're at a level of awareness where there's a separation. I'm noticing hunger, but it's because of my emotional state. So now there's that separation. You can make that choice,
Mhm.
and kind of the same thing here with with spirit and with emotionality, and seeing fasting as a tool to train those things too,
Mhm.
with the emotional state, creating that separation. I'm noticing anger in response to whatever's happening, rather than getting angry or being angry. And
Yeah.
so I'm really loving this as we're talking about this. I wasn't thinking about this before, but as we're having this conversation now, I'm just really loving the idea of fasting as a tool to train the mental, emotional, and spiritual sides, just as much as a tool for the physical benefits that we
Mhm.
can get from it. I'm really loving that idea of fasting as a tool or a methodology for training those other aspects, the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects. I think that's a really cool concept.
Exactly. Yeah, fasting doesn't have to be limited to just the physical benefits. For example, I've gone through large periods of cleansing, right? Many people ask me why I still fast even for days up until this day, right? I'm already clean, I'm already healthy, but I fast just for having that, building up that mental power. Because when you can do tough things, challenging things, and you overcome them successfully, then you build up mental power. That's huge in today's day and age, where we have so much instant gratification, right? So many people feel that craving, they immediately go out there and eat. They constantly try to gratify themselves, right? So fasting teaches you the opposite. It teaches you uh, long-term gratification. So you fast now, you withhold from all food, and you receive the rewards later. And that's a huge lesson for life itself. Then you can apply that to many other areas in your life also. So it doesn't have to be like, fasting makes you a better person overall. And I still fast for this reason, just to firstly just be more intuitive in my own body, be more connected, have that increased awareness, and know why I'm doing the things I'm doing. Because if you're always numbed by food, then obviously you're just like, I have this I can give this example. Like, if you're always eating, for example, and numbing yourself, it's like driving in the passenger seat of a car, right? You're not the driver anymore. You're in the passenger seat, and you have no total access. You don't have full access to the car. But when you fast, you increase your awareness and you go back into the driver's seat, and that's how you should be navigating through life, right? In the driver's seat, not in the passenger seat. And yeah, fasting really helps with that. It builds that awareness, and of course that mental power as well. If you can say to yourself that you're going to fast for 20 hours and you actually go ahead and do that, then already that builds up trust with yourself firstly, and then a lot of mental power. You're a person that can do hard things, and that really helps with many areas of your life. We really need that. We really need people to be strong mentally, especially in the days we currently live.
I love that, and especially as a challenge, and for coming into and or finding out about and coming into your mental and your mental potential, and also like your discipline potential. I think
Mhm.
discipline is a huge thing for everybody, but like for me, especially in my life, um, discipline is something that's been an issue for me. And um, just going through that fast and going through the experiences of, is this hunger, is this craving, and all that stuff, and just making the right decisions each time, and getting to the end of that fast so successfully, just really gave me a newfound perspective on what I could be if I just just made the right choices. And that's
Mhm.
all it comes down to. And it's literally the simplest and the hardest thing, just making the right choices. But when we talk about all the misconceptions there are. We talk about the way that society has programmed us. We talk about all the advertising that we see, especially here in America. It's just like, as you said there, if you can say to yourself, I'm going to fast for 20 hours and then you get it done, like that's a hell of an achievement in today's
Mhm.
society in 2025 and all that stuff. It's a really big deal. And so just seeing fasting as a tool for mental strength and discipline and clarity is just it's really an incredibly versatile tool, and I'm coming more to that realization just through this conversation too. I
Mhm.
noticed how great it was and how beneficial it was for me mentally when going through it. But as we're talking about it now, I'm really seeing how it can just be just a tool to just utilize,
Mhm.
more often in the future, and for all these other benefits that we've been discussing. So I think that's really cool.
Mhm.
Um, I did want to get into, just because on your page, I mean, first of all, right now, everybody that's watching this podcast can see you. You're absolutely shredded. But I've obviously, been following you on Instagram, and so I watch your stories, and especially I see the ones where you do your exercises. Especially seeing the handstand push-ups that you do with full and complete control, which are absolutely ridiculous. But so I did want to just ask you about, fasting and fitness. Yeah, obviously, fitness is a big part of your life. Fitness, it sounds like, is just a big part of um, who you are and just your personal approach to life, from what I understand from you through this conversation. You keep talking about how you love challenges and you love things that can push you to new limits and to new heights, because that's how we grow. And so I'm assuming fitness is, just another part of that for you. So can you talk to us about just fitness and fasting and how these things play together, and how you make them work in your life?
Mhm. Yeah, as you said, fasting is a tool that it's available for all of us, and I utilize it even when I'm training as well. I always train in a fasted state. I feel like I have even more increased alertness, more focus, even I feel more endurance, even because if you're fasting regularly, then you're also making your body more fat adapted, which just means that your body is more efficient at using fat for fuel. And me personally, I prefer to use fat for fuel and not glucose and carbohydrates. So fasting is something natural that I always do. I always train in the morning in a fasted state. And also all the hormonal benefits that we mentioned before, like those all assist in building muscle. Human growth hormone, testosterone goes up. So again, it's another tool that you have in your toolbox to just do that naturally, and that's why I still utilize it. And I feel like it's a great pair when it comes with training. It's also why I'm able to build up a lot of muscle mass easily, because not only because I know how to train and I've been doing it for years, but also because fasting really boosts all those hormones, right? And your body is able to build muscle even more efficiently. It also is able to recover after training, which is another crucial part. So when you're fasting regularly, you allow your body to heal even more effectively, right? And that goes with muscle tissue as well. So you can really heal your muscles a lot faster. I notice my recovery has improved a lot since shifting to this lifestyle.
And I'm sorry to jump in here, but this is with, like, your typical eating schedule. Are you doing one meal a day right now when we're talking about like working out in the fasted state and all that stuff?
Yeah, right now I'm only eating at lunch. So like 2 p.m., 3 p.m., around that time, I feel like my digestive processes are like at full power at that point. I always eat based with the sun. When the sun is at the highest point around lunchtime, that's when my body is like more primed to digest food. This is my personal experience, but you can, like anyone can just experiment and see, what the best time is for themselves. I used to eat in the evening and I was just fasted throughout the day, but I feel like too much food in the evening doesn't allow me to sleep deeply. So I shifted to eating towards midday, then having that gap until evening, and then I can sleep. But yeah, I fast up until lunchtime. I stop eating at around 4 or 5 p.m. Then I fast until next day. And in the morning, it's usually when I train physically. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, I wanted to ask that before when you were talking about one meal a day and you said just a big meal a night, but I wanted to ask that about like does that affect your sleep and like, we always hear about you want to stop eating maybe like 2 or 3 hours before you go to sleep and so I
Mhm.
was interested to know that. So I'm glad you just brought that up yourself there. So you mentioned that you eat typically just in that afternoon window, when the sun's highest in the sky is works for you, which is pretty cool. But and so you do the physical activity in the mornings then before that afternoon eating window.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotcha. And so it looks like, just from the clips that I've seen on your Instagram, it looks like you do a lot of, body weight and calisthenics type exercises. Is that kind of where you land? Can you tell me just a little bit more about, what your actual physical routine is, just for anyone
Mhm.
that's curious?
Yeah, I started with weightlifting back when I said that I started training at 16 years old. Then afterwards, I had a back injury from excessive weight with deadlifts. Pretty hard exercise, and usually it comes with a lot of injuries for
That's
many
always
people.
the one. That'll do it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then I started hanging off a bar, and I noticed that my spine was immediately relieved. I had like the lower back pain was lessening a lot, and I just you know I from hanging I just started doing a few pull-ups, and then I immediately got hooked with it. Of course, it was a challenge at the start, but I built up the strength. And I kept doing it, and I loved the idea of bodyweight training a lot more than doing weights. Nowadays, I incorporate a few weights here and there, but most of my training consists of just body weight training. It's all calisthenics. And sometimes I add weight on top of me, like a weighted vest and stuff to do pull ups and handstand push ups and stuff like that. But yeah, most of it is just body weight. I feel like if you master your own body weight, you can build a tremendous physique. Back in time, that was the training that even our ancestors were doing. Spartans were always training, with their own body weight. They were running sprints. They had all these, in their base. They had pull-up bars. They had all this stuff to train. There was no really a lot of weights, so it was pretty much body weight training. And I love the idea of, um, going back to those ancestral roots.
Yeah, I really love that idea too. I was waiting for you to bring up the Spartans so I could do a little oh, but I definitely love that approach. I really want to do more body weight stuff myself. I really love the kettlebell. That's my favorite piece of equipment. The kettlebell. I feel like it's just so versatile. I feel like you can do everything with it and train so many parts of the body together at the same time with really dynamic movements and stuff like that. So I got a kettlebell set recently, so I can start doing that now that we've got nicer weather at where we are now. I can start jumping outside and getting that done. But I've always been really intrigued by body weight work as well, and I love how I love how that just kind of fits into your whole philosophy of just, mastering the physical state, while we're in it, like you said, spiritual being in a physical body, but mastering that physical body and, not just with, um, the fitness aspect, but also with, the nutrition and with fasting and with, everything that comes along with that. Breath work and stuff like that is something that I'm really interested in doing. Is that something that you've done at all? Have you done any like breath work and meditation and those sorts of things?
Yeah, definitely meditate every single day. I feel like it's a great way to reset the mind and also have that natural calmness during the day and not be affected by any stressors that easily. Um, but in terms of breathwork, there used to be a phase where I was doing lots of heavy breathwork, like I was following routines of other people, and I was like in a breathwork craze. I was doing it for hours per day. But right now, I just feel like I just returned back to a very natural way of breath work, let's say, where I'm just focusing on nasal breathing and slowing my breath down to the point I can't even hear it, and just being calm and present. And I feel that's the best kind of breath work there is. Like, you don't have to necessarily go and follow all these patterns that are available on the internet, like Wim Hof and stuff like that. No
Mhm.
animal in nature is following, specific breathwork patterns. They just all breathe they're intended to breathe. And for us humans, it's just nasal breathing, calm your breath down, never breathe through the mouth, always keep it nasal breathing. And that's basically it. Try to slow the breath down. If you also, it's a good way to keep your attention, to not be distracted as easily. Like, if you can keep your attention on the breath, sometimes it really helps a lot with your mental state as well. Like, if you're dealing with any sorts of distractions, just return to your breath. Naturally it calms the mind as well. So it's a huge part of my routine as well. Yeah,
I
daily.
love that. I love too how you explained how, you went through this phase where it was just your breathwork craze phase, and then you kind of just came back to this more natural thing. It kind of speaks to this concept that we've talked about in the work that I've done, which was just like the different levels of mastery, and you start off at just this unconscious um um damn, what's the exact wording? um Incompetence, unconscious
Mhm,
incompetence, like you don't know what you don't know, and
mhm,
then you move into this conscious incompetence, which is like now you're aware of all the stuff that you don't know. And then you move into conscious incompetence, like,
mhm,
all right, and then I think I just repeated that one, as there's four levels, but then eventually it's just like now you get into this unconscious competence, just like
mhm.
this. You don't have to try anymore. That was it. Conscious competence, like now you're
Yeah.
aware of doing the good things. So the
Mhm.
breathwork craze phase is like your conscious competence, right? I know I should
Yeah.
be doing breathwork. It's really good for me, so I'm going to do it, do it, do it, do it. But then you move into that unconscious competence where it's just an embodied thing now. Like I don't
Mhm,
have to
mhm,
do and try breath work now. I've just gotten to this natural state of just breathing more effectively and more efficiently, and in a more embodied and aligned way.
mhm,
So I think that's pretty cool how you described that there. You went through that phase, and then now you just got to this
mhm,
calm, embodied state of it, and that's kind of speaks to my own journey here with the mental, emotional, and spiritual side. I had this one moment of awakening a year ago, and it was like I just got to this point of just like on fire, and just like it was like bursting out of me and stuff, and it was temporary, or maybe it didn't have to be temporary. If I embodied it in a better way, it could have stayed, but it only lasted a certain amount of time and then kind of went away, and I went through this whole phase. But now where I'm at, I feel just like this calm, embodied positivity,
mhm,
mentally and emotionally, and just in my everyday life too. And so kind of just that same idea like you're talking about with your breath work. You get to that
mhm,
excited state, and you just know you're doing something better, and you want to just do as much of it so you can be as good as you possibly can. But then just getting to that more calm embodied state is just like when it's truly come to fruition for you, and really manifested. So um
exactly.
interesting.
And also, if someone is going through that breathwork phase where you're constantly researching, how to breathe right, that's already very good. Like, most people don't know how to breathe right.
Yeah.
So if you found some type of breathwork routine that you're already doing, and you do it every single day, that already is huge because it trains your unconscious breath. It makes it even more efficient. So the more you practice conscious breathwork, the more your unconscious breath betters itself. So then you don't have to think about your unconscious breath. You just breathe more efficiently, very naturally. So I
Yeah.
feel like I went through that phase as you described. I really did a lot of breath work, and naturally I trained my breath to be more efficient. And now I don't have to necessarily do any type of work anymore. It's no longer work. It's just who I am, and it's how I breathe. Right? I know I'm more conscious of it. So I feel like it's that phase was very helpful, very
Yeah.
beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a necessary phase as well. I don't want anything that I just
Yeah.
said to make it sound like it's not. It's a necessary phase. Just like I said about the levels of mastery, you have to go to that level where it's a conscious effort and doing it more and more level because it is a great thing for you and you should be doing it more. And so, getting to that phase where it's, you're really on fire about it and passionate about it and doing it a lot, that's all necessary, and that's providing the practice so you can then get to, like you said, that embodied calm state where it just is you now. That pattern of breathing is just your pattern of breathing now, and it's not a conscious thing anymore. So yeah, absolutely a necessary step of the process. And we have all love and compassion for the craze phase for all of these things, whether it's breath work or fasting or whatever it's going to be, that next thing that you just really get really passionate about. That but as long as it's for your health and your vitality, hell yeah, get passionate about it, get crazed about it, and start incorporating it into your life, because these things that we're discussing are going to be beneficial for you. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you for clarifying that, Johnny. I hope that I didn't sound like I was
No.
crapping all over people going in the craze phase, because I did not intend to do that at all. I'm very familiar with the craze phase myself, for many different things. So, all right. The last thing that we had on the agenda to talk about here was just just a little quick blurb on refeeding after extended fasts. Like we've talked about a little bit, just how to use the extended fast as a pivot point, and how to maybe refeed in a more conscious way too, so not just the couple days of refeeding, but maybe how we can use fasting and the refeed process as a pivot into a new life, or a new way of living a more nutritious and a more healthful life.
That's an amazing question. So I feel like, as we mentioned already, fasting is a great way to reset your entire system. And when you do those extended fasts, your gut environment also resets. So any type of gut bacteria that you had previously in there, good or bad, they weaken, they die off, especially the bad bacteria, right? Where if you're a person eating junk food, you have a lot of bad gut bacteria. Fasting helps clean that off, and naturally it makes your environment a lot more receptive to food. So you have to be very specific about what type of nutrition you follow after a period of fasting.
Can I just
But
jump in
even
real quick and ask you?
yeah.
I'm sorry, before you move into what you're about to say, how how many days does it take for that gut bacteria to die off? So if somebody wants this reset specifically, how many days of an extended fast would they have to do for that die off to happen? So then we can go into this pivot that you're going to talk about here. So sorry, just if you could
Yeah.
answer that and then just keep going right back into
Mhm.
where you were, because that was perfect.
Yeah. So basically, these bacteria are living organisms, right? First, if you don't feed them, they begin to weaken, and then after a few days, they will eventually die off as you continue not feeding them. So, for example, if like I made the post about this recently, where I'm saying like you are not your cravings. Like, don't identify with your cravings. Your cravings are, they have to do with what kind of gut bacteria you house in your gut environment, right?
It's a great
So
post,
if
by
you
the way. Great post.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, many people, yeah, they think that they crave sugar because that's just who they are, but it's not who you are, right? It's just what kind of gut bacteria you have inside your gut. So if you have those sugar-eating bacteria, then naturally they will create those cravings. They influence your brain. They send out those cravings, and you crave sugar. You want those sugars. treats and stuff like that. So if someone has, they feel they're like they have excess cravings like that, sugar cravings or cravings for junk food, it just means your gut environment needs to clean up. You have to stop feeding those gut bacteria. After a day, they begin to weaken. After a few days, they will begin to die off, and you will have no longer the same cravings. It's actually very interesting because after a fast, you notice that probably almost all your cravings have shifted like entirely. You no longer crave that. Like you can go past the donut shop, for example, and then you don't even crave the donut. And I was a huge donut junkie, right? I loved sugar. I thought, I need to have that sugar daily. But it's just what type of gut bacteria you house in your house, right, in your temple. So yeah, fasting really helps with keeping them at bay and then resetting that gut environment. So next time you eat, you are rebuilding your gut environment from scratch. So you fast you do a prolonged fast, you reset your gut, and then the food that you eat should be very strategically chosen because it creates new gut bacteria, and it either promotes health or it promotes disease again. So you have to really be conscious of what you put in, because it really what's the word, it will influence your cravings, right? What you eat, like if you break your fast with a pizza, like after a few days you will crave pizza and junk food again. So you have to be very strategic, very careful about what you eat. The right way to refeed: first, you have to understand that your intestines, there's what we call intestinal villi, and it's basically like let's say fingers, right, in your intestines, and these fingers are what absorb your nutrients. So you put food in there, these fingers will go out and absorb that food. So when you fast, these fingers basically just go to sleep. The intestinal villi, they go to sleep, and they're not receptive to what you put in. So this is why when you break a fast, you have to start introducing food slowly. You can't just have a giant meal right off the bat, because what absorbs your food it's not awake yet. You have to start very slow. What I suggest is start with very simple carbohydrates such as fruits and juices, and that already primes your digestion. It wakes up this intestinal villi. You can actually Google them as well. Like for anyone listening, just Google it and you can actually see how these look like. But this is very important to break your fast very slowly, because you want them to awaken slowly and gradually. If you awaken them too fast while they're not as receptive, then you will have digestive issues, bloating, stuff like that. It's not something that you want. So yeah, start off very slowly with fruits and juices, and then move to steamed vegetables, for example, and then more dense proteins, and even cooked food if you have cooked food. But yeah, you have to be very strategic as to how you incorporate food.
Yeah. Yeah, to bring up that post that you made again, I thought, like I said, it was a really great post, very informative. And so, this is a term that I've heard in the past, the gut brain connection. And so, maybe that's something that if anybody's, for those of you watching this, if you're more interested in learning about that, maybe that's a term that you can Google, that the gut brain connection. But that's essentially what your post was all about, just the fact that our gut bacteria craves specific types of food, and they send those signals up to our brains. And so, and to tip my hand here, when I'm craving that burger from Wendy's, it's because that's the gut bacteria that I had established, and
Mhm.
so, it's again just another parallel with the work that I've been doing here on the mental and emotional side, but just this idea of agency and responsibility. And here we can claim a little bit of responsibility. The cravings for the bad, or the junk foods that we crave, are our responsibility. That is the gut
Mhm.
bacteria that we founded in our guts, and so I think there's also the power there too. Fasting is the tool where you can reclaim your agency over your gut, and
Mhm.
so those cravings that you feel, they can be used in your favor. And so if you do this extended fast, reset your gut bacteria, and then you do a refeed in the way that Jonny has put forward here, right, in this very strategic and conscious way, then we can reset our gut bacteria to be healthy, food loving bacteria. And then the cravings that we'll get will be for healthy foods.
That's it.
And so, it's just that whole idea of craving is one of the biggest misconceptions that we have around nutrition and hunger, especially going through this conversation, just realizing that now, like you said, you are not your cravings. I think that's such a powerful line.
Mhm.
When we talk about the soul, we talk about you are not your body. And so to extend that forth to nutrition and hunger, you are not your cravings. Your cravings are coming from the gut bacteria that you have established in your gut. And if you're craving the wrong things, fasting can be the tool to help you reset that. And then a conscious strategic refeed will get you to the point where you are craving healthy food. And now your life has changed. How
Mhm.
incredible is that?
That's it, yeah, and that's why fasting can be used as a way to reset your entire, nutrition, like how you eat after the fast. Like it can all be changed, and it can all be done very quickly as well. You don't have to go like months fasting. You can just do it in 3 to 7 days. You can reset the entire gut system, and like even 3 days, 3 days, 72 hours is what your body needs to entirely reset the gut. You can even science has proved this. For someone just starting out, I really recommend just trying out fasting 48 hours, 72 hours. If you can make it 72, then that's already huge. Your gut will reset, and then anything you eat afterwards is rebuilding the gut environment. And you can actually rebuild it in such a way that you don't have to have this excess willpower as to what to eat, right? Your body naturally will crave healthier foods. You don't have to be so disciplined, with what you eat. You can't even crave junk, as I mentioned. Like I don't even, certain foods, I don't even see them as food anymore, whereas in the past I used to, gorge on them. Basically nowadays I don't even see it as food. So it's just because my gut is no longer craving that stuff. If you can rebuild your gut in such a healthy way, it's going to be life changing.
It's really incredible just to think of how easy that can be. Now you have to do this thing that's totally foreign to you, and something that's been patterned into your head as being bad, and starvation, and all those things, right? We talked about the misconceptions that you have to go right up against to do this sort of thing, but it can literally be that simple as you just kill off the gut bacteria that's craving all that junk, and now you don't crave junk anymore, and there's
Mhm.
still some of the mental, emotional attachment to those things, but the actual physical cravings of them, and they don't happen. And it was funny because I was going through the fast, I was just like, wow, this fast really broke my attachment to certain foods. To be totally honest, like I was subsisting on soda, and I would have
Mhm.
snacks like every day, every night, to end my day. And like going through the fast, I just felt like, wow, those attachments are totally broken. And then reading through your post, I was just like, well, it's because the bacteria that craved it is dead and it's gone. And so it's not this mysterious mental, craving from your higher self or something, it's your gut bacteria like, hey, give me more of that stuff. And so just seeing how simple a tool fasting can be to give you that reset. I mean, this can
Mhm.
literally reset your life in a couple days if you just if you commit to it and then do a proper strategic conscious refeeding and continue that into a lifestyle change. And
That's
it
it.
makes the lifestyle change so much easier because you've killed off that bacteria, you've killed off those cravings, and now going through an extended fast, I feel like I have a different relationship to hunger now. And
Mhm.
so it's as much a mental lesson as it is a physical one. And so getting you into a lifestyle change is so much easier when the mental aspect has been taken care of in that way. So,
For sure,
uh,
yeah. I
um,
want to
yeah, go ahead.
discuss also, I want to mention that noticing your cravings go away, that's a huge win when you're fasting. So that's a huge benefit. Many other benefits during a fast, for example, sometimes you might notice, as we mentioned, so these are some things that you can check off your list to ensure that your fast was a success, right? So the cravings are one. You notice that your cravings have shifted or just been obliterated entirely. You don't crave the same foods anymore. Another benefit is that you notice your mental clarity has heightened a lot. You notice more increased energy, so you wake up and you're more energetic. Actually, you don't have that
100%.
weight.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, as you go, especially then, and your body actually starts to heal itself, then you will notice even higher levels of energy. And other benefits, for example, might be in how you look. Obviously, fat really shreds from your body, so you really lose a lot of adipose tissue. Yeah.
My
Uh,
face was
um,
like changed so drastically just as a result of the 7 day fast. It was
mhm,
really incredible. My face was a lot pudgier
mhm.
before the fast, and I noticed it myself. I usually don't notice my changes as quickly as other people will, but I noticed in my face. I was like, oh man, like which
That's it.
I'll take it.
That's a
Anyway,
yeah, that's a huge benefit. And also, what I recommend is always when you fast, check your tongue. So when you go in the mirror every single day, put your tongue out and see if there's like how your tongue looks. If you have a tongue scraper, you can actually scrape your tongue every single day, and you can notice the discharge that you might have every single time. If you do that and you notice like you have a lot of mucus on your tongue, it just means that there's a lot of mucus still in your system, and your body is discharging it from the bottom up, from your intestines. It goes up in the esophagus and then up in the tongue. So the tongue scraper is an amazing tool to be used every single day, not just when you fast, but when you fast especially, you will notice a lot of mucus going out. And I'm just saying all of these benefits because, as I mentioned in the start of this podcast, that you really want to break a fast when you feel absolutely fine, when you no longer, no longer have any disease symptoms, you feel fine, and you don't have your tongue starts to clear up. Also, that's how you know that the fast is reaching completion and success. So there's many signs to look for. I've made an entire post as well, and I mentioned them in the effortless fasting course that I've made. But yeah, when you know the signs, that's how you know that the fast should be broken, and that's how you know that total healing has been achieved.
yeah, absolutely. That tongue scraping, I got that when I went into the fasting just because I had seen, your posts and stuff like that. And that's really just become a daily routine for me now as part of just my dental hygiene routine, too. So I try to do it like twice a day too, like I'll do in the morning and night, that sort of thing. So yeah, so I just wanted to, I mean, we're basically at the end of, the questions that I wanted to ask you, but you just mentioned your course there, and that's the next thing I wanted to do. Just give you a moment to just talk about the courses that you offer and your website and where we can find more about you and all that sort of stuff. So,
Mhm. Yeah, so I've created effortless fasting. It's basically a course that I would myself use if I was a complete beginner. I basically just created it for myself. It contains the exact advice I would need as a beginner going up into a fast.
that's how the best
So
resources are made. You made it for yourself, and
yeah.
exactly what you wanted to see. And that's what made it such a great product. For everyone watching, I went into I purchased Johnny's course just because, like I said, I was researching fasting and wanted to get into fasting as well. So I was always eyeing purchasing Johnny's course, and so I did purchase that, and it's just full of valuable material, and so it shows that it's something that you made for yourself out of your own passion and your own learning and discovery. That really shows through the product. So, but anyway, please continue.
Mhm. Yeah, it's exactly what a beginner would need in order to make fasting successful. Because, to be honest, I when I started, did a lot of trial and error. I was still learning more about my body, but you don't have to make it miserable. You don't have to fast miserably. This is actually what many people do. They go into a fast without any awareness of what happens in their body. They don't know how to navigate through it. And this is why they then associate fasting with all these negative outcomes. But it's not the fasting itself, it's just because you didn't know how to navigate it properly. So this is why I mentioned, I named it effortless fasting, because fasting can really be effortless if you know what you're doing. It doesn't have to be like, a huge challenge. Anyone can fast, anyone can do it if you know what you're doing. So in the course, you will find exactly step by step, how to prepare for it as well, and all the research, all the advice that I would have liked to know when I first started. Because again, if you know what you're doing, if you know what's happening inside your body, you can then do it with more ease. You basically, I want to eliminate the fear that many people have. Fear usually comes when you are not aware of something. You're not fully aware of what's happening, and you're naturally fearful. Your body tries to protect you, but if you know your body is actually healing itself, if you know it's doing all these things in your favor, then you have nothing to fear. You just follow along with the process. And also, what I want to mention, that I forgot to mention before, is that see every sign as positive. Even the detox symptoms that you might experience during a fast, they're all positives. Because if your body is producing these symptoms, if it's producing a headache during a fast, it's a symptom of healing. That's how healing is done, right? Healing is not always pleasurable. It's not always rainbows and sunshine, but this means that your body is actually going through something. If you feel that headache, if you feel like lack of energy during a fast, just rest, just hydrate yourself and then just rest and let the body repair itself. Sometimes you might feel like the worst you've ever felt on day 2, then day 3 begins and you feel the best you've ever felt in your life. That's because your body has went through some huge healing process, right? And you allowed it. So yeah, that's the effortless fasting course. I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to start out with it. And I've also created the colon cleanse course, which is another course which goes specifically on the importance of colon health and how to do a colon cleanse properly, because every disease basically originates from the colon. That's what even the ancients have always knew, right? As I mentioned, the first thing that they would give a person when they saw that they were sick, it was an enema. It was like they would clean their colon out, because every single disease just originates from there. If you feel that headache, sometimes it just means your intestines are backed up. And I've noticed this time and time again. Sometimes if I overeat, like in the past I would overeat, the next day I would wake up and I would feel diseased, like my energy would be down, I would have headaches. Many people have sadly normalized this. They think that, okay, it's normal to wake up having no energy and relying on coffees, and then that typical headache at 11 a.m., that's normal, completely fine, let's pop a pill. And this stuff is just hurrying you up to the grave. If you do this kind of stuff, you just know, you have to know you're going against your body, right? So yeah, to not go off topic fully, if you actually place importance on your colon health and you fast regularly, then you will create the conditions that your body needs to heal itself, and you will no longer experience any disease.
Yeah, I was definitely going to make sure that you got a chance to talk about the colon health course too, at least before we got off of here, just because I know that from following you and everything that you talk about, I know that it's can be a very powerful combo, to do the fasting and also to be focusing on colon health and how that can really unlock health and vitality for us. And so I definitely wanted you to talk about that course a little bit. So I'm glad you went off topic a little bit just to talk about that course too, because I want to make sure that everybody knows everything that you have available for them, and just how powerful these things can be in tandem, you know. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, the effortless fasting course, incredible, especially if you're looking to take what you've heard here and
Mhm.
maybe try this out for yourself, and just start taking a little bit of action towards your health and vitality, and learning about your body's intelligence and what it's capable of, and what our bodies can do naturally for us. And I love what you were just talking about there at the end about how, we think it's so natural to just wake up with no energy and need a coffee and then have a headache in the afternoon and need a pill and all that stuff. And it's really incredible how much of those ideas and beliefs we've just adopted as truths, And there's that one quote like, it's not a badge of honor to be well adjusted to a sick society. I know I'm
Mhm.
just paraphrasing the quote there, but it's just we really have just adopted these truths of a sick society that you wake up
Mhm.
with no
Mhm.
energy, you get a headache in the middle of the day, you pop a pill, and or maybe you need a soda to make the headache go away, and all those things. And
Mhm.
it's really incredible to look at now, especially on the other side of this extended fast. And like I said, changing the relationship to hunger and to nutrition in general. And it's just
Mhm.
really looking at how damaging society has been to our health and our wellness, and we can literally do such simple things to turn it
Mhm.
around. It's just the simple things are the things that we've been taught are like horrible for us and will kill us and all those things. It's really incredible to see. But
Yeah,
um
the bad thing is that, as you said, like we've normalized sickness so much to the point, like, people don't even bat an eye. They wake up with lack of energy. They have all these. It's actually disease symptoms. Like disease just means you're not at ease. If you're not at ease with anything, you're in disease, right? It's the early symptoms of disease. If you constantly have that headache that you always suppress with medicine and stuff like that. And it's because people have relied on man-made modern medicine so much. They think that this pill will is the fix for all their problems. They immediately don't even look at fasting or other healing modalities such as grounding, for example, or like proper breathing, right? They don't even care about that. They don't, like sunshine, for example. All these are tools that you can use, that anyone can use to heal their bodies. That's what they've been using in the past for like thousands of years, right? But since modern medicine took over, we now think that health comes in a pill form, and that's like the worst way of thinking. Like if you wanted to trick a society and like make them forget that their body is its own healer, this is the agenda that you would push, like hands down. Okay, I understand, the skepticism of the people who rule the world. Okay, but you have to understand that they literally just make you forget about your own body's healing potential, right? And it's for a good reason. They make you forget about that. And this is why I'm very passionate about this, and just recovering all this old information that was suppressed and just bringing it back into the mainstream, because anyone can truly benefit from it. You don't have to expend even money. It's free. It's completely free, fasting and just sunshine and rest and just knowing how your body works and working with it. You don't need any medicine.
it is really incredible, and it's a great point to really wrap up on here. But just the idea that it's just another form of convenience, the way that these things have been packaged. You have a headache, you take a pill, maybe the headache goes away, but what happened to your liver? What happened to your stomach? What happened to your kidneys? And we just don't eat, like you said, we don't even bat an eye at it because of how
Mhm.
convenient that pill is. If you could
Mhm.
pill fasting, if you could pill breath work, people would be taking it like crazy.
Of course.
But that's the thing. It's just, I guess the pharmaceutical industry has a much better marketing team than than holistic health and fasting and breath work and all that stuff. But that's the beauty
Mhm,
of social media too. As
mhm,
negative as social media can be for society, we can also find people like you who have this incredibly important message and this passion and pure heart behind it, and I think that's just my favorite thing about this conversation and finding you, Jonny, was just finding a good person to connect with and a good person that wants to educate and inform and heal. And
mhm,
I think that's a really amazing set of characteristics for somebody in 2025. It's
mhm,
unfortunately, it's those are more rare characteristics today, I feel like. And so the fact that you're such a good guy, the fact that you have such a pure heart, that you have such a passion for this, I really appreciate that. And I just want to thank you for that very much. And on behalf of my little audience, I would like to thank you for those things. And I hope to just for your audience, I hope this is a cool way for them to see you, maybe a
mhm,
format that they haven't been able to see you yet in, and just a very valuable conversation. And I think that after today's conversation, if people are looking to get started with fasting, I think your course is definitely the next step. And I think that's the beauty of it. Fasting is free, and your course is not a super expensive course. It's very, very affordable, and
mhm,
actually. And so
mhm,
I think that's awesome. It's clear that you're doing this out of the goodness of your heart and just out of the purest um, form of service and a mission
mhm,
for you. And so that's my favorite thing about this and about you, Jonny. So thank you so
mhm.
much for that. Is there anything else you want to leave us with before I have you go? Any last words of wisdom or anything like that from you?
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you for this podcast. I really enjoyed talking with you
This was
about
awesome.
fasting.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I believe we covered a lot of very valuable topics, lots of information already in this podcast. And I just hope that every listener just goes ahead and actually try it in their life. Just experiment with it. That's how I got into fasting and it changed my life. That's how you got into fasting as well. It changed your life. So it's not just about listening, it's about application, right? You have to apply it, and you never know how quickly your life can change afterwards. Like, you don't just let it for a future time. Try to apply it as soon as possible. Just for tomorrow, for example, prepare today and then start the fast tomorrow, even just 24 hours. You can finish eating today by 5 p.m. and resume eating the next day by 5 p.m. And that's 24 hours. Like, it's already incredible. If you can go through that first benchmark, then there's always more to come. But yeah, for every viewer, just apply all the information we've explained in here. Make sure that you go into the fast with a positive mindset, and yeah, just enjoy the journey. Just getting more connected with your body, see how you feel as the hours go by, right? So fasting can really teach you a lot about your own body.
I love that. And this is something that I've been talking about a lot recently. And just a perfect place to end this. I've been talking about that old saying, knowledge is power. And I've always said knowledge is not power, knowledge is potential energy.
Mhm,
Knowledge in action is power. And I think it's beautiful that you ended us off with that message there, that don't just listen to this podcast, maybe go ahead and try it out.
mhm, mhm,
Experiment, try it, experience it for yourself, because all the information in the world is not power until you put it into action. And
That's
so
it.
you just got a lot of really valuable information from this talk, and that's all thanks to Jonny here being so gracious with his time. And so now let's take that knowledge, let's put it into action so that our knowledge truly can be power for us. And if you take this knowledge and put it into action, it might actually have a very powerful impact on your life.
Hmm.
So I'm
Hmm.
really excited about that. And I love the fact that you ended off on that message for us, Jonny, because I would really love people to try fasting out too. Again, for the legal disclaimer, I want to tell people obviously consult your medical professional, but I truly believe in fasting. I know that if you try it and experience it for yourself, you're going to take a lot of positivity away from it, whether mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical. There's going to be
Hmm.
amazing benefits for you on the other side of your fasted experience. Mine was spontaneous and went for 7 days, and I learned so much from it. That doesn't have to be the typical experience. Jonny outlined so many different ways you can get into fasting, and even just a 3-day reset, right, can
Hmm.
reset your gut and really impact your health in the most profound way, probably. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
a 3-day fast can have a more profound change than a doctor visit. You know what I mean? Again,
For sure.
not to get into any legal trouble here, but like a 3-day fast resetting your gut can have the most impactful change on your life. Whereas you can go to a doctor visit, get your blood drawn, get on a new medication, and help yourself that way, or you can totally reset your nutritional life
Hmm.
with something as simple as a 3-day fast. And
Exactly.
imagine the health impacts that will have on all of those things you got your blood drawn to check, right? So,
Of course, yeah. So you have to understand that if you go visit the doctor like multiple times per month or per week even, then what does that tell you? Is the doctor actually helping you with his advice, or is he just suppressing the symptoms? And then when you have the same symptoms again, you go visit the doctor and you pay him. It's all a business. This is the sad reality, right? So fasting, if you incorporate it in your life, you do a monthly 72-hour fast, for example, then you will no longer have to visit any doctors. I haven't been to any doctor in like decades. I don't even remember what those places look like. I have no business in there. I know how my body works. I know how to heal myself. And that's hopefully the message that I want to pass to everyone, right? If you understand that the body is its own healer, you don't need to depend on any other healers, right? Even like in all this advice, I'm just trying to awaken the healer that's already within people, right? I'm not trying to heal you. I'm not a healer. I'm just trying to awaken your own inner healer, right? Just understand that your body already has everything. It's already in like equipped with all the tools. It's like manufactured in such an advanced way. It's the most intelligent vehicle we have. If you know how to use it, then you will benefit. You will live a long, healthy life. And but you have to actually try and experiment with your body. Just learn how it functions. Many people know how their car functions way more than how their own body functions. Like I see this all the time. For example, with my own dad, for example, he sometimes has these detox symptoms, and he's like, why is this happening to me? What's he always gets a pill for like to suppress this that headache, that typical headache that he has. But like when his car shows a problem, he immediately takes the car to the mechanic. He's trying to, he's so, he tries to find out what's happening within that car, And I'm like, if you only tried to see what's happening with that detail in your own body when that headache came, then you would be a lot healthier. You would not have that headache if you actually tried to see what's going on, right? So yeah, definitely fasting is one way, one of the many ways to heal the body like that. And you will for sure learn a lot about your own body and how it functions. If you just fast for a day or two, it's a true way of learning more about your own body.
I love that. And I love what you said there about, I'm not trying to claim to be a healer. I'm not trying to heal anybody. I'm just trying to reveal the healer that's already inside of you. I really love that line there at the
Mhm.
end. I think that's a perfect way to wrap this up too. Just to reveal the healer in you. Your body is intelligent. Your body can do incredible things. We just have never given it the chance with the way that our society tells us to live. And so maybe if you've been feeling in your life like your body doesn't feel the way you would want it to feel, maybe you feel sluggish, you feel like brain fog and all those sorts of things, I'm going to drop the maybe and just say, I believe that fasting is one of the first places you should go to try to address those issues. And
Mhm.
I feel like I experienced all of those things. And so I would say from my first hand experience, which is just my 1 7 day fast, I would say that I truly believe in the power of fasting. I mean, it's all scientifically proven and all that stuff, to be
Mhm.
clear, but I truly just believe in the absolute power of fasting and all of the different aspects of our lives that it can benefit us in. Um, but I love that line just to end this episode here, trying to reveal the healer that's inside of us. I think that's just a perfect parallel to what I've been doing on the mental and emotional side of things. Um, I don't know if we're picking up that audio, but things are getting chaotic downstairs. It's definitely telling me it's time to wrap up the podcast episode. But I just love that. Just we all have a healer within us, whether it's for our physical body or whether it's for our mental and emotional and spiritual bodies.
Mhm.
And so I love that you've ended off our conversation on that message, Johnny. Again, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. You're very generous with your time, even before today's podcast. And I still want that to be clear. You were just a great guy from the very outset when I just, first messaged you on Instagram, just looking for a little advice before you even knew who I was. So very gracious for how good you are as a person and how great you are for this mission and for the message of fasting. So just immense thanks for you and thank you for coming on and doing this episode with me. It really means a lot to me outside of just how great and how valuable this conversation was. It really means a lot to me that you said yes to come on here and do this episode. And I think we created something very valuable here together. And I'm just so thankful that you gave me the opportunity to hold this space for what we were able to do here.
For sure, brother. Yeah, it was an amazing experience, even for myself. I really love talking about this topic, and yeah, hopefully many people can benefit from it. Like this podcast is already packed with value. Just watch it over and over again, and especially during a fast, it's always good to just repeat this information, have that podcast playing, have that fasting motivation, right? And it will really help you with your fasting journey.
Absolutely. Awesome, brother. Listen, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and end the session here, but thank you so much for your time, brother. Seriously, this was all right, awesome. Guys. If you've made it all the way to the end of this talk, first thing I want to say is you're an absolute trooper. I know we went for about 2.5 hours here, really, really in depth on this one topic here of fasting. But I'm really hoping that you feel that we provided as much value as we feel we did in this conversation here. So I just want to end off with the typical sign off here. I do want to say thank you so much for tuning in to the first ever episode of the New Eyes podcast. I do want to say that I truly believe in earning everything that I get from you as far as engagement with this channel. So I want to say this. If this conversation provided you value, if this conversation taught you something, if you took away some valuable things that you can either consider or apply to your life, then please consider leaving a like on this video and hitting that subscribe button and clicking that bell icon so you never miss another New Eyes podcast episode release. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you for making it through this conversation. And I really hope that you can join me going forward as I take a look at everything in life through new eyes.